It was a warm morning at Atlanta International Airport, and people hurried across the terminal, dragging luggage and talking loudly. Among the crowd was a tall black man named Marcus Reed. He wore a simple dark suit and carried only one small briefcase. His calm face and gentle eyes gave the impression of a man who had seen much in life and learned to speak softly, even when the world shouted around him. Marcus had just come back from a long business trip in Africa. For months, he had been helping small aviation companies in poor areas start new routes so children could reach schools and hospitals faster. He was not a man who liked attention. He avoided cameras, avoided fame, and never told people how powerful he really was. Behind his quiet look, Marcus was one of the biggest private investors in the airline industry. His company, Reed Global Investments, had helped airlines across continents grow. That morning, Marcus had a meeting scheduled with the CEO of North Sky Airlines, a man named Richard Collins. North Sky had recently announced a big plan to expand its routes across the world, and the project's total value was $3.3 billion. What most people didn't know was that Marcus's company was providing the entire funding. Without Reed Global, the plan would never even leave the ground. The airport was buzzing because Richard Collins was there too. Cameras followed him as he smiled and shook hands with airline staff and reporters. He was known as a confident man, proud of his success, and always ready for the spotlight. Photographers took pictures as he spoke about a bright future for global travel. The press called it the biggest day in North Sky's history. Marcus stood near Gate 27, watching quietly. He didn't care about fame, but he cared about respect. His assistant had told him that Richard wanted to meet him before their next board meeting. Marcus waited patiently until Richard finished talking to reporters. When the CEO turned around, Marcus stepped forward with a warm smile and extended his hand politely. "Mr. Collins, it's good to finally meet you in person," Marcus said, his voice calm and friendly. The moment hung in the air. Richard looked at Marcus's face, his dark skin, his simple suit. His smile faded slightly. He frowned and looked confused, almost annoyed. "I'm sorry, I think you're in the wrong area," he said stiffly. "This space is reserved for executives and partners." Some nearby reporters turned their heads, sensing something odd. Marcus didn't move his hand back right away. "I'm Marcus Reed," he said softly. "We've been in touch for months. My company is the main financial backer for your expansion project." The silence became heavy. People nearby stopped talking. Even a flight attendant standing near the counter looked uneasy. Richard's expression changed, but not in a good way. Instead of recovering, he gave a short, uncomfortable laugh. "Oh, yes, right. Well, we'll have someone from the finance department reach out to you," he said quickly. And without shaking Marcus's hand, he turned to greet someone else. The cameras caught it all. Marcus's hand still stretched out. The CEO walking away, and the uneasy faces of people who witnessed it. It lasted only a few seconds, but it felt like forever. Marcus slowly lowered his hand. His expression didn't show anger or embarrassment. He just nodded politely and said, "Understood." Then he walked away quietly. As he passed through the gate area, a few people gave him sympathetic looks. A woman whispered to her husband, "That was awful." He didn't even shake his hand. The husband nodded but said nothing. No one knew who Marcus really was, and that made the moment even more painful to watch. Marcus reached the business lounge and sat by the large glass window. Outside, airplanes rolled across the runway, engines humming like distant thunder. He sat silently for a moment, then opened his briefcase. Inside was his laptop and a small notebook full of handwritten notes. He didn't look upset. He looked thoughtful, as if replaying the moment in his head. His phone rang. It was his assistant, Maya. She had seen the news alert that was already spreading online. "Sir, are you all right?" She asked with concern. People are already talking about what happened. Marcus gave a soft laugh. Yes, I'm fine, Maya, he said. I'm just surprised. I didn't expect that reaction. Sir, she continued nervously, you know that handshake was filmed. It's all over the internet now. Reporters are asking questions about who you are. Marcus leaned back in his chair. Let them talk, he said. We don't need to explain anything. But make one call for me. To who, sir? To the finance team, Marcus said calmly. Tell them to pause the North Sky funding immediately. We'll review the partnership terms later. Maya hesitated. All $3.3 billion? Marcus nodded. Yes, for now, it's on hold. After hanging up, he stared out at the airplanes again. His expression was calm, but there was a deep sadness in his eyes. Not anger, not pride. Just disappointment. He had hoped the man leading North Sky Airlines would value character over appearances. He had hoped for decency, for fairness. But what he saw today told him something different. Down in the terminal, the news had already started spreading. A passenger had uploaded a short video clip on social media with the caption, CEO refuses to shake man's hand at airport. Within minutes, it had thousands of shares. People were shocked. Some guessed the man in the video was a random traveler. Others said he looked like a business professional. No one guessed he was the billionaire investor behind the very company that CEO worked for. Marcus didn't read any of it. He just closed his laptop and stood up. He had another flight to catch, this time to New York, where his board members were waiting for updates on several projects. He picked up his briefcase and walked toward the gate, passing people who still looked at him with curiosity, unaware that the quiet man walking past them could change the entire future of an airline with a single phone call. Before boarding, he stopped by a small cafe near the gate. The young woman behind the counter smiled brightly. Good morning, sir. What can I get for you? Marcus smiled back. Just a coffee, please. Black, no sugar. She nodded, poured the coffee, and said kindly, Rough day? He chuckled. Something like that. Wow, I hope your day gets better, she said as she handed him the cup. Marcus thanked her. That small act of kindness, so simple and genuine, reminded him why he worked so hard to support ordinary people, the ones who didn't care about money, race, or power. Only respect. He walked to his seat on the plane and looked out the window as the engine started to roar. The airport lights blurred into golden streaks. For most people, it was just another flight, another business trip. But for Marcus, this was the moment he decided who truly deserved his help and who did not. He took a slow sip of coffee and whispered to himself, Respect. It costs nothing, yet it means everything. As the plane lifted into the clouds, the world below was still buzzing with the story of the refused handshake. What none of them knew was that Marcus Reed had just made a quiet decision, one that would shake the airline industry in ways no one could imagine. The next morning, news channels all over the country were showing the same clip again and again. The moment when the CEO of North Sky Airlines refused to shake Marcus Reed's hand. The short video had already reached millions of views. People everywhere were talking about it. Some said it was the perfect example of arrogance. Others said it showed how quick people were to judge someone by their appearance. Marcus sat quietly in his apartment in New York, drinking his morning coffee as the television played in the background. He wasn't smiling, and he wasn't angry either. He just looked thoughtful, like a man trying to decide what the right thing to do was. His assistant, Maya, arrived with a folder of reports. Double quote, sir. It's getting worse, she said softly. The media has discovered your name. Everyone now knows that you're the investor behind the airline's expansion. Reporters are outside North Sky headquarters. Marcus nodded slowly. I expected that, he said. Have we heard from Mr. Collins? Maya shook her head. Not a word. But his team tried to contact our office this morning. They want to talk about the funding. Marcus placed his cup down. Tell them there's nothing to talk about. We're withdrawing all support. Every penny. Maya looked unsure. That's $3.3 billion, sir. Pulling that money will destroy their project. Marcus looked out the window at the New York skyline. Then maybe it's time they learned that money is not the same as respect, he said quietly. Meanwhile, at North Sky headquarters, chaos had broken out. The public relations team had been working all night, trying to calm the media storm. Emails were flooding in. Shareholders were calling nonstop, and employees whispered nervously in hallways. The company's stock had dropped 8% in a single day. Richard Collins sat in his office with his head in his hands. The man who had always looked so confident in front of cameras now looked pale and tired. His assistant came in holding a document. Sir, she said in a shaky voice, Reed Global just sent official notice. They've canceled the funding agreement. Richard looked up sharply. Canceled? That's impossible. She nodded. It's real. The email came directly from their legal department. They've pulled all $3.3 billion in investment. He snatched the paper from her hands and read it twice. His face turned red. Do you understand what this means? He said. Without that money, our expansion collapses. The deals with our international partners will vanish. We'll lose everything. But deep inside, he already knew why this was happening. That short moment at the airport, that single act of disrespect, had caused something no amount of public speeches could fix. By afternoon, news reporters stood outside North Sky's glass building. Cameras pointed at the front doors. Sources confirmed that the man ignored by the CEO is billionaire investor Marcus Reed, said one reporter on live television. Reed's company has now withdrawn a massive $3.3 billion investment, leaving the airline's future uncertain. The story spread like wildfire. People online began comparing Marcus's calm reaction to the CEO's arrogance. One viral comment read, "The quietest man in the room had the loudest power." Marcus, however, wasn't watching. He spent his day meeting with other companies who had been asking to partner with him. A smaller airline from South America, known for treating its employees with care and fairness, sent representatives to meet him. They admired what he had done for rural aviation in Africa. "We'd be honored to work with you, Mr. Reed," said the young CEO of the company. "You've shown the world that business can still have heart." Marcus smiled gently. "I don't do business for revenge," he said, "but I choose to support those who treat people with respect. That's how real progress happens." He signed new partnership papers that same afternoon, moving his $3.3 billion investment into companies that valued honesty and kindness. Back at North Sky, shareholders demanded answers. An emergency meeting was called. Inside the boardroom, Richard stood before a long table filled with serious faces. "This was a misunderstanding," he said nervously. It was a moment taken out of context. One of the board members, an older woman, crossed her arms. "A misunderstanding that cost us billions?" She said sharply. "You embarrassed the very man funding our future. You didn't even shake his hand." Richard didn't know what to say. His voice trembled. "I didn't realize who he was." "That's exactly the problem," she replied. "You didn't realize who he was because you never looked beyond his skin or his clothes." The room went silent. Richard lowered his head. He knew there was no excuse. That night, he went home and sat alone in his study. The newspaper on his desk showed his picture under the headline, "Airline CEO faces collapse after disrespecting investor." His phone rang again and again. Reporters, lawyers, even old friends, but he didn't answer. Meanwhile, On the other side of the city, Marcus attended a quiet charity dinner. No cameras, no stage, no speeches. He was surrounded by young students from the aviation scholarship program he funded. They were future pilots and engineers, kids who dreamed of flying planes across the world. One of them, a girl about 16, walked up shyly and said, "Mr. Reed, I saw the news. I can't believe how calm you were. Weren't you angry?" Marcus smiled kindly. "Anger doesn't build anything," he said. "Only calm choices do. You see, when people show who they really are, you don't fight them. You just walk away and let your actions speak." The girl nodded, inspired. "I want to be like that someday." Marcus laughed softly. "Then start by always respecting others, no matter what they look like or where they come from. The world will notice." A few days later, North Sky's financial problems deepened. Banks began to back out, and partner airlines canceled agreements. The board forced Richard to step down as CEO. The company issued an official apology, but the damage had already been done. On television, reporters called it the most expensive handshake refusal in business history. The moment had become a lesson around the world. Business schools, magazines, and motivational speakers began using Marcus's story as an example of quiet strength. 1 month later, Marcus received a letter in the mail. It was from Richard Collins himself. The handwriting was shaky. It read, "Mr. Reed, I owe you an apology that words may not fix. I acted without thought and without respect. I now see that what I lost was not just money, it was integrity. I hope someday you'll forgive me." Richard Collins. Marcus read the letter slowly and placed it in a drawer. He didn't smile or sigh. He simply said to himself, "I already forgave him the moment I walked away." That weekend, he flew to Nairobi to visit one of his aviation schools. The children there ran up to greet him, their faces full of joy. They didn't know anything about business or the internet. They just knew that the man visiting them had given them wings to chase their dreams. As he watched a small training plane take off into the clear blue sky, Marcus felt peaceful. He turned to his assistant, Maya, and said, "See that, Maya? That's what the real future of aviation looks like. Open skies for everyone, not just the powerful." Maya smiled. "You did the right thing, sir." Marcus nodded. "I didn't do anything special," he said quietly. "I just made one phone call. Sometimes that's all it takes to remind people what really matters." He looked up at the clouds, sunlight reflecting in his calm eyes. The world had turned his quiet moment into a headline, but to him, it was never about fame or revenge. It was about dignity, the simple belief that no person should ever be looked down on. That belief had built his success, and it would continue to guide him long after the headlines faded away. And somewhere high above, a plane with his company's logo crossed the horizon, symbolizing the truth Marcus had always lived by, that respect can lift people higher than money ever will.